it's so nostalgic for so many people. But then also, if it's not nostalgic, it's still like really entertaining and relatable. You know, I feel like young adult angst is universal and timeless. You know.
Hi, I am Jordan Bohan here with Pop Culture Planet. Super excited to speak with you both today.
Hi, Jordan. Love your
Hi.
books.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. Comes in handy having quite a big library, and I love book adaptations. It's one of my favorite genres of film and television. So speaking of, for both of you, is there something about working on a book adaptation that you kind of like or is different from working on another type of script?
It's a strange one. Sometimes you can read the novel and then you come to read the script and it's very different. And there are things that are not there or there's things that have been added. And you can be a little bit disappointed at times or a little bit excited, depending on what those changes are. Um, I think, my personal experience on Tell Me Lies is, Megan got what she could out of the book in season one. And, obviously there was a lot of addition to that, but season two is very much out of her head. And so it didn't feel like I was joining something that was an adaptation in that sense.
I would say like there's probably a nervousness surrounding like people's expectation. Um, but again, like as Tom said, this season especially, it's very like it's a divergence from, obviously it's extracted from the book, the story and everything, but the especially with the ensemble cast characters, we definitely explore their lives more so, which I think is not as big of a plot line through the book. There's like a little bit of a nervousness.
This college time period can be very pivotal for many people, and it can be hard to authentically capture in a show or a movie that we've seen. Um, but I think this show does that incredible job of balancing both, like, this is what it's like being a student, this is what it's like kind of exploring who you are and who you want to be in relationships and friendships. So, Kat, for you, filming this during kind of what would be almost your college years, does it feel kind of like being on a campus and having that experience in a way?
I would say, yeah. I think especially as a cast, we bonded so much. And so it definitely is, that kind of atmosphere of like just we're having fun, and I mean, I never went to college, but this is I'm definitely looking at it as like these are my years to kind of, have that college, yeah, that college fun. Uh, but it's exciting, like even getting to shoot on a real campus and like, all the sets were so amazing. We had these awesome dorm spaces on the stages, and like they really just did such an incredible job that it really does feel so real when you're in it. And so that was really exciting as well.
And Tom, for you, did working on a show, for the college time period kind of bring back any memories for you of being in university or kind of reflect on that time in your life in a different way?
It made me feel really old. uh, yeah, I mean, it's so strange. Life is so strange. I feel like when I think about drama school, it feels like yesterday, and I graduated quite a long time ago. And so yeah, it was lovely to sort of to witness it. I felt quite removed from it in many ways. These guys have done season one together, and they're all of a similar age and going through this kind of, experience together. And I felt like an outsider, but I think in the best possible way. In which it helped really service our story. But it did kind of make me feel old. That's what my experience was on Tell Me Lies this year.
Your relationship kind of has those blurred lines. So how were you able to kind of work together in a way that was, like you said, authentic to the story?
Obviously, it's a delicate line to walk. And I think, Megan wanted to put a story in like this because these relationships do happen. I mean, when I was at drama school, there was famously, a professor there that had an affair, blah, blah, blah. Not when I was there, but like years before. And people would talk about it. And, weirdly, he was still there. That's going back, way back. But I think the interesting thing about Tell Me Lies, or this part of Tell Me Lies, it takes place in 2008. And since 2008, the conversation about sex, sexual dynamics, consent, and power, and all of those things, it's evolved a lot, that conversation. But it doesn't feel that long ago, 2008, and yet you're in a place exploring a relationship like this, and I think it would be a huge no these days if people were to find out about it. But the ambiguity of like what goes on behind closed doors and how people feel about that, the conversation was very different back then, I think.
I think these types of things do still happen. And in that time period, it definitely, like you said, there weren't as many boundaries and rules and or consequence, I would say. An interesting theme to explore specifically for this time period. And in terms of like handling it, I think I just appreciated how we both came in with so much care, and we really wanted to tell the story in the most genuine way, especially playing Bree, with her background and everything, like just the nuances of how someone in that position might react to the things going on, especially with like just, I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but how things play out. It's definitely like a whirlwind of a storyline, and I think people are gonna relate to it, and I hope people take something away that is helpful.
One of the things that Kat and I did when, like, in trying to service this as well as possible, was not think too far ahead, and we would like meet up. You shoot it sort of 2 episodes at a time, and we would meet up before we start shooting the next block and go through the scenes together and talk about it. One, for our own comfort levels, and two, just so we could be as much in that moment of the relationship and where it was at that moment in time as possible, and not sort of foreshadow it with our feelings about where it's going. And I think that was important, because I think Megan's really, really good at, even though as a viewer you're watching something and there's all these red flags, you still have some degree of understanding as to the choices that are being made in the moment. And I think that's what people find really relatable about the show, is that we all make choices that are not necessarily the right choices in the moment because of the way we're feeling, and the intoxication that we feel from the other person.
Really excited to talk about this. This show is probably one of my favorite shows of all time. I watched the first season in my college apartment, and now I'm in the phase of life where I'm going to friends' weddings. So I feel like I kind of relate to both sides of this story.
The show, I think. I mean, it doesn't matter if like it's so nostalgic for so many people, but then also if it's not nostalgic, it's still like really entertaining and relatable. I feel like young adult angst is universal and timeless.
Definitely, for sure. And so, the show being based off a book, of course, big reader here. You kind of had some source material there to work from, but this second season really kind of starts to take off in a different direction, and you get to see kind of more of the side characters' backstories and things like that. So what aspects of your character were you most excited to explore in this new season?
Yeah, I was excited to see what happens with Wrigley after the end of season one. I was excited and happy to see that I'd be dealing with falling off a house and his everything happening with his brother Drew, and it's fun because Wrigley's trying to keep up like a front, and it doesn't work out well, and it's kind of a disaster as things go by. So that was fun dealing with that.
I guess how Evan deals with stress, and we see what happens and what kind of guy Evan really is, which I don't think he even knows, because I don't think he quite has ever dealt with anything like this. So I thought that was really fun to kind of play with every episode, every scene.
And Thomas, for you, you kind of, I guess, embody your character in a way of you're kind of the new guy here joining this ensemble cast that's already been working together, and your character's coming back from, studying abroad. What was it like joining in the season 2 when the cast was kind of already established?
It's always really stressful as an actor, like joining a cast that's already very well established. You know, it's quite nerve-wracking. But I came in and everyone was so welcoming and so kind and so lovely, and made it really easy. Most of my scenes are with Grace. I get on so well with Grace. I think she's a wonderful human and an incredible actor. And I actually just worked with her sister on Gossip Girl. So I'm just going to end up working with all the Van Pattens, hopefully. But yeah, no, it was really. I feel very, very honored and grateful to be able to be in this show, because the show's amazing, and to work with Megan and to work with the boys and work with everyone, and it was really, really special time and experience. And
I think something that's so special about it too is just all of the different relationships, all the different dynamics, you know, whether it's romantic, platonic. I think specifically for, you know, Brandon and Spencer, your characters kind of having this male friendship relationship that you don't get to see oftentimes in especially these college style shows, and seeing like a very genuine friendship. So were there any favorite scenes that kind of embodied that dynamic that you were really excited to get into?
I feel like I bounced a lot of ideas off of Wrigley, and I didn't necessarily listen all the time, but I think those scenes were pretty fun to do, because Spencer's hilarious. I mean, anytime I get to do scenes with Spencer is always really fun. So all of them, I would say.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but I mean, there was the Halloween party where
Yeah.
we were cracking each other up and having fun. I don't know how much made it into the show, but
More
yeah,
than
it's fun. It's always fun when we get to be on set together and do scenes. Yeah.
Is there anything while watching or making this series that you reflected upon of like your college life and college age, or like advice you would want to give to someone who's in college and dealing with these kinds of problems and balancing all these things?
I mean, I was an idiot in college, but I don't think I was this dumb. But yeah, study hard, go to class, uh, all that good stuff. Just, don't watch this show, and if you do everything opposite to every character, then you'll probably have a good.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
It made me reflect on like the relationships I had in college, or I mean, relationships is a loose term, but like the situations I had in college, and how a lot of stress could have been avoided had I just like took a second and been like, what are we doing? Um, and I think none of the characters do that very well. But at the same time, like, college is meant to have those dumb experiences and figure all of that shit out. And you got to take the crookeds with the straights, and got to be kind of thankful for it as well, because without it, you don't learn and grow and hopefully become a better human being.
yeah, I was gonna say that as well. I mean, yeah, you just gotta fuck up and learn from it, I guess.
Yeah.
There's no point. Have you ever tried to give a college student advice? Don't listen, don't care.
And like, it's the last time, and it's really in any capacity, it's the last time where you have this kind of structure that is there still to protect you in some way, that you can kind of fuck about in. 'Cause,
Yeah,
even if you get a master's or something like that, like, it's very serious now. Like, you have to focus. And when you get in life, you can do that, but like, there's serious consequences. So the consequences are kind of, to some degree, limited, and you're protected a little bit. So it's like, don't go too crazy, but have some fun, do dumb stuff and learn from it.
As someone who very impulsively dyed their hair platinum blonde like freshman year of college, I was like, I relate, Pippa. I get it.
We've all been there. And if you haven't, then you're smarter than us because you bleached your hair.
It's a rite of passage in the college formative years. You got to
You're
do
obs-
something drastic.
Yeah, you're upset and you bleach your hair. That's what you got to do.
What aspect of each of your characters were you most excited to explore in this new season, outside of kind of what was written in the book and what these characters, first were in the first season?
Yeah, I would say for Diana this season, we see a lot of like instability, which which, you know, she did experience, you know, obviously in season 1, but I think that that gets, you know, exaggerated even more this season. And having to like think on your feet and like make quick decisions when your back is up against a wall. So that's really fun to play with, especially with a character who like on the outside seems like she like has everything together, like things are really falling apart for her very quickly. So yeah, that was honestly like really exciting.
Yeah, I think Pippa changes a lot. I mean, she comes back looking different, and then as the year goes on, she just keeps changing. So I think it was exciting for me as an actor to be like holding the character that I made before, but also finding I'm like, what are ways that I can sort of expand it and have it still feel like Pippa, but show all these different sides and push myself too. So yeah, it was really fun to experiment with that.
Were there any specific scenes, like you read the script and you were just like, this one scene is like either going to be really difficult for me or I'm really excited to challenge myself in this way? Because there are so many confrontations, so many fights, so many makeups. Like there's so many different sides to these characters that you get to touch on.
I think when I read the football player, when she like tells off all the football player scenes, I was very nervous. I'm not a very confrontational person, working on it. Um, and so I was like, this is fun and also it seems very scary. And she has like a handful of moments in the season of sort of ripping somebody a new one, and it was fun to like experiment with it of like where does that come from.
Yeah, so those scenes are the most intense, but I also like I love it as an actor because like you get to see like the best in your scene partner. It's like so fun watching the other person like react to that and like playing together, like because it's not like the big group scenes are fun, but I really love these scenes when it's just two people like really locked in. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and that moment with Grace and Kat in the end with the car, we were like we heard about that and we were like, oh, so excited. That was the best. Yeah.
I know every time you think you know what's going on and who's responsible for what, another scene happens. You're like, I know nothing.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
with like Diana, you know, that scene when she gets in the car with her dad and all of this is revealed that like she was out of control and she found a way to control things and kind of rewrite her narrative, especially when it comes to Steven.
Yeah, that was really fun. And also like it's so funny that like my dad, and I wonder, I don't know if anyone like cares about this or is going to notice, but like my dad saying like how did Steven take the breakup, like my dad also knew this whole time. So like so it's just like it's interesting, like the orchestration that she's doing on and off screen, you know, like she's talking to her parents saying like, oh yeah, like I broke up with Steven, you know. So yeah, like it's really exciting to see like who's in on it and who's not, you know.
Is there any piece of advice you would give to either your character or someone who's in that state in college where they're just kind of like questioning themselves, questioning their decisions and their relationships and things like that as they're trying to navigate this time in their lives?
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about this last night, and I think just like trusting your gut and believing in yourself, because I feel like it's so easy to have all these different people in your ear and sometimes people who are like very well intentioned, but yeah, just really trusting yourself and like knowing what you know, because you know no one knows you better than you do.
Yeah, that like made my heart hurt a little bit, that question in a good way. I think Pippa has a really rough semester, and yeah, I mean, if I had advice for her, I think maybe just like a hope. I hope that she is able to start to turn everything that she's been sitting on into something that really like fuels her and helps her heal and helps her like start to get agency back and feel like she's in charge of her life. And like you said, trusting yourself, it's such a huge part of that, just being in college and in that age.
That's all the questions I had for you today. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was great. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.